Hello guys, hello, what's up? There is one grand lie that we are limited. The only limits we have are the limits we believe. Wayner Dyer. 6. The 7 lies of learning. What are the most limiting myths you tell yourself? How can you overcome the debilitating effects of these myths? How can you turn these limiting beliefs into positive ones? You are being lied to constantly, sometimes by yourself. We are all subject to an endless stream of misinformation. You are being lied to constantly, sometimes by yourself. We are all subject to an endless stream of misinformation about our constraints to our capabilities, and we receive this information so often that most of us have no other choice than to believe it. The problem is that these messages directly oppose your quest to become limitless. These limited ideas entertained lies in our mind can stall us or steer us in a direction we don't want. So let's bring 7 to light, examine them for what they are, and replace them with something better. Lie number 1. Intelligence is fixed. On the surface, it looked like Ray was a pretty positive person. She ran her own business, she had a thriving social network, and she loved being around people with big ideas who could imagine possibilities that most of us wouldn't dream of. When Ray had a daughter, she realized that perhaps she wasn't as positive as she thought she was. A different kind of mindset started to show up in every subtle ways, as these things do. First, it was in the way she reacted to some of the things her little girl did. Ray tended to think that that's just the way she is, instead of believing that she could have an effect on the way her daughter behaved. When her partner tried to teach their daughter new things, Ray noticed she felt a subtle discomfort, as if she wanted to protect her daughter from disappointment if she wasn't able to learn what she was being taught. She became aware of the constant thought that her daughter was too young to learn that. One day, her partner looked at her and said, "Do you think she can learn that she's never gonna improve from where she is?" The answer was, of course not. She loved her daughter, and the little girl was bright and curious and learning something new every day. The opposite was obviously true, and yet Ray was aware that there was some belief buried deep inside her that whispered, "No, she is the way she is." Ray was struggling with a fixed mindset about her daughter's intelligence. These beliefs are incredibly subtle. Few of us constantly think about our restriction or the restrictions we believe others have, but it leaks out in places that deeply affect our happiness, in our work, in our home life, and with our children. If you believe that it's not possible to improve, then in reality it won't be possible to improve. It's extremely difficult to accomplish something when you don't believe it can be done in the first place. Carol Dweck, a professor of psychology at Stanford University, describes the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. In a fixed mindset, students believe their basic abilities, their intelligence, their talents are just fixed traits. They have a certain amount and that's that. And then their goal becomes to look smart all the time and never look dumb. In a growth mindset, students understand that their talents and abilities can be developed through effort, good teaching, and persistence. They don't necessarily think everyone's the same or anyone can be Einstein, but they believe everyone can get smarter if they work at it. Like Ray, most of us don't think about whether we have a fixed or a growth mindset. Most of us just carried on thinking in the same patterns that our family did without even knowing it. As subtle as this is, the adoption of one or the other deeply affects the way we approach life. With a fixed mindset, things are the way they are. We are powerless to change them. With a growth mindset, we have the ability to improve anything. If Ray thinks, even on a very subtle level, that her daughter can improve her growth, what does she do instead of teaching her? Probably a number of things. Placating, giving time hours, diverting attention, all of this work to alleviate the stress of the moment, but they don't contribute to her child's growth. In the same way, if as adults we believe that we don't have the capacity to learn, what do we do instead of taking a responsibility to teach ourselves what we want or need to know? We tell ourselves it isn't necessary. We make excuses, we blame other people or circumstances, and then we distract ourselves with things that make us feel good. The genesis of this limiting belief is likely one that you either don't remember or that came from your early years, and it has a deep effect on the way you view intelligence and your capacity to learn. IQ scores and testing were created in the early 1900s to better assess which students would experience the most difficulty in school. French psychologist Alfred Binet and his student Theodore Simon were some of the first scientists to come up with a test that measured intelligence. After they were commissioned to do so for the French government, they were able to devise a test that took into consideration age as it related to competency. They were also lauded for the fact that the test was easily adaptable to other languages and cultures. More than 100 years later, it's still hotly debated whether these tests have the ability to measure intelligence, which is the ability to acquire and assimilate knowledge and information.